The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7, titled The Spies, has hit on Disney+, and we're going to break it down right now on the Sundowners Club. Welcome. I'm your host, Sean, my co-host, Sterling. So, Sterling, after last week, I thought, where does Star Wars go from here? It was probably the worst episode of Star Wars content that I can ever remember. And so I did not have any expectations for this week. And my main thing I thought was, with 2 episodes left, can they redeem themselves? Can they bring it back? Do they have enough time to bring it back? And we're going to get into some of the details, but my first reaction, you and I have only talked about it briefly, is this was a really, really good episode. Yeah. And I'm as confused as ever. Because I really don't understand what we just went through last week when we had this episode here to set the stage for everything we've been wanting to see. If you like what you're hearing today, you like the content, you want to tell us what you think, you want to give your opinion on what you thought of the episode, leave a comment below, smash that like button, and most importantly, hit subscribe so that we can grow the channel. But tell me, what did you think? Episode 7, before we get into some of the details and what we saw and where we think it's going to end up, what did you think about Spies?
So I went in with really low expectations because, like we said, the last episode was awful. And as I was watching it, I was like, this is actually really good, and it's just crazy how it's so inconsistent. How you went from last week to this week, and it's just. It almost doesn't even seem like it's the same show, And I realize they use different directors and
Rick Famuyiwa, man, give him shout outs for this episode. Yeah. He kicked butt on this episode.
I don't know what else he's done as far as Star Wars goes, but
he's done a couple episodes, I think, every season. He's been there since the beginning because remember the behind the scenes after the first season, he was in it.
Yeah, but and, it was. I was watching. I was like, this is kind of what I expected. That's what I wanted. When we watched this show, like that's exactly why we watched this show, was for everything from. I thought the dialogue was better. I thought the fight scenes were better. Everything about it was a step up from what we've seen this season, and I just don't understand how we're that inconsistent.
Did you notice how? And I have to go back and watch the some of the prior episodes, at least for the clips of Coruscant. Do you notice how in the beginning we see Elia Kane and she's going through the streets of Coruscant, but it looks like Blade Runner?
Yeah, I did. I thought so.
It looked different, didn't it?
Well, there's a game that I play called Cyberpunk 2077, and with the music and everything, it looked just like Cyberpunk Blade Runner, and it was cool. It looked great, and the whole episode.
Imperial probe droid, does a hologram, and we see Gideon and Elia Kane and this. So we're going to come back to this because this is one thing that threw me off a little bit, because we're going to talk about, when we get to the end, we're going to talk about Spies and what that means. So stick around to the end. When Gideon first talks to Elia Kane, and we know Elia Kane's on Gideon's side, and she's reporting on the events of Nevarro. The pirates have been defeated, and he said, what happened? You had it under control or whatever. And she says the Mandalorians banded together, and he says, who? What Mandalorians? And she says Bo-Katan, Kreese, and Din Djarin, and he acts surprised, right?
Right.
He's like, what? That they're sworn enemies. What? Why is this? Like he acts surprised, and so that's going to play into what we talk about at the end of our episode here. But that threw me off a little bit because I thought Gideon would know pretty much everything that's going on. But then we cut to Gideon, another cool scene, man, that kind of ties back to the Phantom Menace a little bit, when you have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul when they're fighting in the force fields or blocking Obi-Wan. I don't know if that was a callback to that or if it was just a similar style, but Gideon is in some fortress. We don't know where yet, but he's walking through and they've got guards, and it's shutting off as he gets through each section. And then he gets into what's, in essence, the Shadow Council. And it's the remnants of the Empire. And, Gideon is standing there, and we see Hux. So he's the father of Hux from the sequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And what was cool was I thought that, man, I was like, man, it would be cool if they had Brendan Gleeson play Hux's father, who is actually Domhnall Gleeson's father in real life.
Oh.
But they didn't. They actually brought in Brian Gleeson, who is Domhnall Gleeson's brother, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I think it's Domhnall's brother, but he's playing his father. And the cool thing about Hux is we find out he's getting a lot of the resources that Gideon's asking for. And he introduces Necromancer, Project Necromancer. And the assumption is that's what, Palpatine or Snoke and or both?
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, probably.
That's what it seems like. But I mean, there's so much they could do with that. You know, I think, you could bring back Anakin from the dead or something. There's so much cool stuff you could do with that, which I hope they explore. But I think that ties right into the sequel trilogy with Snoke and Palpatine.
That would be cool. Like we really hadn't talked about that.
I mean, I don't even, was Palpatine even, was that supposed to be the same Palpatine? I don't even know in episode 9, or is that a clone? I don't even.
It's a clone, right?
Yeah, I'm not even 100% sure, honestly.
Yeah, it's a clone because they were working on cloning him before he died.
Okay.
So it's a clone, but
yeah, so I guess that explains that, but there's a lot more they could do with that, I think, in the future, and hopefully they.
And then you see Pelion, who is the second in command of Thrawn, and he's talking about Thrawn's coming back. We're going to bring back the Empire, and Gideon is like, "No, man, Thrawn. I'm not a big believer in Thrawn. So he's, which kind of explains now why, like, okay, Gideon is Din Djarin or Bo-Katan or Grogu, is someone else going to kill Gideon by the time we get to the sequel trilogy, or is Thrawn going to kill him? Because we know he's not going to defeat Thrawn. So, but he certainly wants Thrawn's position of power. But he asked for TIE interceptors, TIE bombers, and 3 of the Praetorian Guard. We talked about the Praetorian Guards, making StarWars.net. Those cats, man, they get everything right. If you ever want to find out, like a year or two ahead of time, any spoilerish images or rumors, when movies are being filmed or content, making StarWars.net, he may be batting 1,000. I don't know, but they were the first that I saw that talked about the Praetorian Guards, that made their way from the Return of the Jedi to the form we saw him in The Last Jedi. But so he asked for 3 Praetorian Guards. You assume if he's asking for 3, that they're pretty bad. If 3 will get the job done. So, and then it cuts to Nevarro, and I thought it was going to bother me because I knew ahead of time, some of the beats from the episode as far as them landing on Nevarro, and you see IG-11 is reconstituted as IG-12, and you have Grogu jumping in to basically control the suit. Mm-hmm. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did too.
It was actually good humor. It was, the timing of it was good. How he kept hitting yes, no, no. Pretty funny.
I actually laughed when I was supposed to. When I've spent a lot of time laughing at things I don't think I was supposed to find funny in this season. So
yeah, that was it sort of fit, right? It was like there was nothing in this episode. Now I will say this: the one thing that jumped out at me during the episode was that they were having to rush this thing because they've wasted other episodes this season. Yeah. In an 8-episode arc, it certainly seems like that they wasted a couple episodes. But we got here, and
that's been the problem with Star Wars, though, on a lot of things we've watched. I felt that way with Obi-Wan. I felt that way with Andor, how we talked about maybe they needed to cut some episodes out or cut some things out. And
you know what's funny about that is that's all editing. And the one thing that was always George Lucas's strongest suit was editing. The guy couldn't wait to be done with principal photography so he could get in that room and edit the movie down. Like he was a master at that. And so then you don't have George around anymore and you have editing issues left and right. But look, I mean, it's all critical, the writing, the casting, the production, the direction, and editing is a big part of that. So, but we have Grogu in the suit, and Bo-Katan tells them they're going to reclaim Mandalore, and they're going to go see if the surface is safe, and they're going to take a small scouting party. And so they get volunteers. And we've been setting up this Paz Vizsla arc for a few episodes now. It's been intermittent because we've skipped around that I think has hurt the season this year. But Paz Vizsla, has been supportive of Bo-Katan. He questions everything, but he says this is the way, and so he joins the scouting party, and they go to Mandalore, and the first thing they encounter, and again, I didn't mind it. It felt like it fit, was a skiff type setup.
I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool, and it was Mandalorians that had been suffering that were there that didn't tuck and run, and you could tell they were war torn. I'm trying to think of the actor who was the Mandalorian.
The one guy was from Breaking Bad. He played one of the drug addicts.
That was yeah.
And he looked okay because they kind of
Pete.
Yeah. And
that was Skinny Pete.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it fit in because it kind of seemed like they were just stranded on this planet fighting and like malnourished.
Yeah,
so he actually looked pretty good in the role.
The other guy's a big character actor. He's been in a ton of stuff, and he's always good. So I saw him, and I thought, believable. He had, the face, man, looked like he'd been through it, and really, really cool. It was fine, and you see Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves, getting into a little bit of a fight, and Grogu separates them, and then Djarin, she says, "You taught him well," and he says, "I didn't teach him that," which I guess maybe does that harken back to Luke, or I think it's just Grogu's nature, to try to bring characters together. But they're on this skiff, and then they get attacked by a creature that initially I thought was the Mythosaur, but it didn't have the tusks, and so it was just
Can Mythosaurs go outside of water?
I'm assuming they can, but this is not what it was because I didn't see any tusk. I watched it again, and I don't.
That scene looked great though. It crashes the ship, and you see him flying off the ship.
Yeah.
I thought that looked really good.
Great production. Looked really good. Then they make their way into the caves, and they go in, and they find the remnants of the forge, and all of a sudden, I guess they're super commandos. They started flying around attacking them, and everybody gets separated. So you start to see, right in that moment, I was like, okay, Paz Vizsla's dying because Paz Vizsla was like the hero. I'll give you cover. And you're like, all right, this is only going to last so long. But fighting scene seemed like it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. He's shooting his chain gun.
Yeah, he's got
till it overheats and throws it. And, it was some of the best action I've seen, definitely since the last episode of season 2. I still think that's the Luke Skywalker episode is still the best episode, but this would probably be the second best.
Yeah, when
episode.
the fighting started with the super commandos and they're flying all around, that was pretty cool. And because they were hiding behind rocks, and the structure itself was kind of cool as far as for the fighting.
I feel like the Empire needs more of those because stormtroopers otherwise are kind of useless. They can't hit anything. Why don't you just get more super commandos?
Although Paz Vizsla mowed a lot of them down. But so they make it into, you think they're going to go into more of a cave structure, but all of a sudden you see what looks like an Imperial base.
Right.
And
they made it their base.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, are they not stopped? So this is where I kind of was like, okay, a little bit of suspension of disbelief. But when the episode was working as well as this one was working, I didn't mind this. You would think that they would have stopped and said, wait a second. Where are we going here? Like, this is not a cave anymore. Who did this? But they don't. They keep moving, and then they end up trapped, and the door shuts, and it makes it again. It harkens back to a little bit of that Obi-Wan Qui-Gon where Din Djarin is stuck, and they're all Grogu and Bo-Katan and Paz Vizsla and the rest of the Mandalorians are stuck behind him. They can't protect Din, and he gets captured, and all of a sudden, here comes a Mandalorian in black armor, Beskar armor, with a helmet that
I thought that was a great looking suit too.
Pretty cool. And the helmet had horns on it. So the question is was he a Mandalorian under Darth Maul? I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't seen any confirmation or rumors about that. My question is that Is that the case?
But the Smith,
The armor?
the armor, she's got horns on her helmet.
She's
too,
got
so-
horns on her helmet. And so that's a good point because somewhere in the scene, I have to go back and look and when, she's taking the wounded from the ship, from the skiff, and she's going up into the atmosphere to go to the ship to try to tend to them, to the wounded, because they wouldn't otherwise make it. And so the one thing that was strange was they kept showing, for those of you that watched, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but they kept showing the armor ship kind of going through the atmosphere. And I kept thinking, as soon as they clear the atmosphere, they're going to get shot and blown up. The armor's going to die or something's going to happen. But it cuts back to it, it cuts back to it, it cuts back to it, and then they make it through and nothing happens. And then we cut back to Gideon showing up, once they corner Din Djarin and they separate them. And he's got the helmet. And you're right. The only other person that has a helmet that matches that with horns is the armor. So that begs the question, is the armor
think
a
she's in
spy?
on it.
Is she in with Gideon? Because the episode is titled Spies.
I think that'd be a cool twist, but
And we think about it. The episode is titled Spies, and we had one spy and Elia Kane that we already know. Where's the other spy? Because it's spies, plural. So is it Axe Woes? Because, he left too. They went through the top of the opening in the cave,
well,
right?
the one thing is though is that he got freed by Mandalorians though, didn't he? Because they found that ship that was destroyed. That was Moff Gideon's ship. So
And the assumption is they were super commandos, but I don't know.
it was Mandalorian
Starting
armor.
to think so. So, because here's what we don't know. Is Axe Woes and the Night Owls, are they really loyal to Bo-Katan? Because at the end, the person standing there fighting to protect Bo and Grogu was Paz Vizsla.
Right.
And we saw them scattered and they got away. But so that's the question. There's got to be someone is going to betray Bo-Katan. Is Bo-Katan bad? I don't think so because she says, I'm going to kill you. I should have killed you.
I don't think so either. I
So-
think she's going to be probably the main character.
Yeah, she's good. Because the reason why I think that she's not bad and she's not the spy ultimately is because Din Djarin told her, your story hasn't been written yet. And
That wouldn't make any sense.
And so I think, that's going to happen. So what are they going to do with Din Djarin? So he's got him captured now. We're going to see the mind flayer. They're going to wipe his mind. He would have no memory of Grogu or Bo-Katan.
I think he'll probably get saved. I don't know.
There have been rumors of a Bo-Katan and Din Djarin fight in the season finale.
Oh, really? Huh. And like he's not himself.
Yeah, like he doesn't remember. Like, they did it with Pershing in episode
Right.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of looks like they're moving away from him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
which I guess I've heard they've kind of said they are, like they've even confirmed that.
Well, now
So,
they can take his helmet off because they've captured him. He's
right.
not around other Mandalorians, so that, they could potentially take his helmet off. We could finally see Pedro Pascal for the first time this season.
Right.
He's been doing all of his lines via ADR.
Sitting at home.
Yeah.
Be doing
Great
voice
gig.
work.
But so Gideon basically takes Din Djarin, and we have the ending saying goodbye to Paz Vizsla. He pulls out his laser Gatling gun and tells Bo-Katan, you guys got to get out. Now, Bo-Katan, could she have taken the Darksaber and cut through the door to save Din? Or would that have just exposed her? Would they have just gunned them all down?
Yeah, I don't know. They have this armor that's immune to guns, so like they couldn't kill Paz
they had
until the guards came with their,
And Gideon had Beskar armor.
Yeah.
And you knew the Praetorian Guards were coming. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. My initial thought was that she was gonna use the Darksaber, turn it on, and basically cut through and save Din, but she didn't. I don't have a problem with it. That's fine. It happens really quick. Gideon throws her off. She obviously is concerned when she sees, that he's there, and he tells her, "I'm releasing the TIE bombers to go take out your fleet." So she knows they're in trouble.
At least we're interested again.
Yeah, you're thinking about the
at least we're
scenarios.
thinking about it. And we're not just going, I don't care. 'Cause-
Yeah, you care enough to think about scenarios. And then Paz Vizsla, man, he makes a good run. He takes out a bunch of super commandos. And then here comes the Praetorian Guard, the 3 guys in red. He doesn't do very well against the Praetorian Guard.
No.
They looked a lot more dangerous and lethal than they did in The Last Jedi. Of course, they were fighting two Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough, but he's not a Jedi.
Not a Jedi, yeah.
You know.
So he goes down, suffers the hero's death, and I liked Paz Vizsla's character. I felt like we could have spent some more time with him, but it served its purpose. And they take off, and they're in trouble. They're in trouble now. So we go to the finale, and what are we going to find out in the finale? We're going to find out that there's someone has betrayed them.
I think you're going to see Thrawn for sure. I think they'll bring him in right at the end.
Because Ahsoka comes out in August.
Yeah, so they'll definitely bring him in. I think Moff Gideon will die. I don't think.
You think Gideon dies in the finale?
I do. I don't think they're gonna keep him around because you've already got the next villain coming. That actor,
because they're just now they're building him up now where he's finally got some power. Like he's got.
So yeah, I don't know.
Does Luke and Ahsoka show up?
No, that'd be too cool. But I don't think that's gonna happen.
So look, here's what's cool from last week to this week.
Will Lizzo show up?
Well,
Yeah.
Poor Lizzo.
Yeah.
You can't fault Lizzo for the bad writers.
I hope Lizzo shows up.
Well, look, I mean, to go from last week to this week, we're actually talking about what could happen in the finale. That shows you to me, however good someone thinks this episode is or is not.
But what if the next episode's great? Like, what are you going to say about the season? Because at the end of the day,
I'll say it was average.
Because you would have 3 good episodes out of 8.
Yeah, because I think episode 1 was just average, didn't do anything. Episode 2 was good.
Yeah, I mean the first, not really. I mean the first good episode was when they fought the pirates. I thought that was
okay. So you didn't like episode 2 as much as I did.
I didn't like episode 2 at all.
It would mean that if the last
is that the one where they have to keep saving Den? Like he keeps.
Yeah, if the finale is really really good, and it closes strong, then I will say that it was average at best because the only 4 episodes this season for me worked.
Yeah, it will be 3 for me. So.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to look at the season as a whole. And the question is, do you go back and repeat or binge watch this season, or do you just go, here's 2 episodes I'm going to watch, that's it?
Just start at episode 7.
Yeah, so that doesn't help them for viewership if you're not going to go watch 3 or 4 of the prior episodes. But I give this episode a 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it. Yeah, probably 8 or 9. I
thought it was strong. I mean,
I thought it was really good.
So it surprises me because I thought there's no way I'm going to feel the way I feel after last week. But this is a really schizophrenic, strange season. They need to explore the different directors.
Yeah,
I don't think that's working. The different directors.
I think you need to pick maybe 2, and then just have them switch off.
Yeah,
yeah, because having one, it's 1 per each episode right now, and I don't think it's.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
It doesn't even feel like the same show sometimes.
Yeah,
it looks completely different. Just everything about it, like it's from episode 6 to 7. I mean, it almost felt like a completely different show. So
yeah,
I don't get it. They gotta do something. Bring some consistency.
Another thing that may be possible, unless somebody goes back into Legends and tells me that there's another explanation, which there could be, for the armor being a spy, is who made Gideon's armor?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, did he inherit it because he served with? But then he would have worn it in prior seasons,
right?
But he didn't.
Well, no, he made the armor. I mean, the armor is new from the way he says it. So yeah, I don't know. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So lots of stuff to figure out. Again,
I think that'd be a cool twist, actually.
Predictions for the finale. I think we're going to see the Mythosaur. I think we're going to see Bo-Katan and the Mythosaur, to try to rally the Mandalor. And I think we're going to see possible mind flare on Djarin. I think they're going to take his helmet off. I think they're going to, because why else did they do it to Pershing? They set that up. They do a mind flare on Din, and he doesn't remember Grogu. Grogu has to bring him back.
Yeah,
the bond between Grogu and Din. That would explain why you could have the rumors out there, whether they end up being true or not, of Din fighting Bo until he realizes who he is. Grogu saves him. That's not necessarily my prediction. I think it's a possible scenario for the finale. And then I don't know how it's going to end. Is Pedro Pascal going to be on the Mandalorian next season? Is he not? We'll see. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't believe I am looking forward to it. But after this episode, I am. So they did their job. We're always going to tell what we think is the truth. We're going to give our opinions, that's all they are. And if we don't like something, we say it. And if they do a good job the following week or the following movie, the following season, we're going to say that as well. Right. And that's the way I felt this week. It sounds like you kind of felt the same thing.
Yeah.
So we'll be here to cover it. Again, let us know what you think. I know there's going to be a lot of thought around this, especially if you watch the video. Let us know what you think. Leave some comments for us and smash the like button. And most importantly, hit subscribe so that we can grow our channel. And TCB.